Welcome back to the Early Edge. I'm joined now with SportsLine's soccer or football analysts. We've got Martin Green and John Eimer, a.k.a. Buckets, with us. Let's talk some Champions Leagues, fellas, should we? Only 8 teams left remaining, and even though it's been a month since we've seen some of those games, what did you learn about these teams moving forward? Buckets, I'll start with you.
The biggest thing that I learned is there is a big difference between how teams play in the Champions League and how they play in their domestic leagues at home. Dortmund has been terrible, shambolic in the Bundesliga this season. They're in the bottom half of the Bundesliga table, but yet they are absolutely destroying teams like Lille from Ligue 1 and like Sporting from the Portuguese Primeira. These teams can differentiate themselves, which makes it tricky to bet on, but it does let teams like Dortmund have a little bit better of a line sometimes in these big UCL clashes. Yeah,
Martin, what will you use from what you saw to help you handicap moving forward?
Yeah, I would second what John said there. It's like with Arsenal, they're often involved in tight, low-scoring games in the Premier League because their opponents impose a low block against them. But in the Champions League, their forwards get to play with freedom, and they absolutely annihilated PSV Eindhoven in the last round. So I'd be looking more for overs bets when they're playing as opposed to under in the Premier League. I think we also learned that you write off Bayern Munich at your peril. They were absolutely terrific against Bayer Leverkusen, and PSG just look like the form team in Europe right now, which we weren't expecting before. So I think they carry a lot of momentum into this round of fixtures.
Okay, that's some good learnings to move forward here. And when we did the mic check, Buckets, you said your name and then you said Arsenal. So let's talk about Arsenal. Should they really be favored to win over Real Madrid, considering all of the injury problems?
So me saying Arsenal was more as a dig to Martin than anything else, because I do not think that Arsenal should be the favorites at all against this Real Madrid side. We can talk about football heritage and talk about Real Madrid and what they've done in this competition for decades now. But if you look at the injuries that Arsenal possess, I can't fathom them being the favorites, even at home with Real Madrid having everyone at their disposal. I think Arsenal, Martin, no offense, would be happy with a draw in this first leg. So some tough lines to find here.
All right, so he fooled me, Martin, but I see you're wearing the kit here. So talk to me about Arsenal. Is Buckets wrong? Should they be favored?
Yeah, I don't really think they can justify their status as favourites right now. I know they're the home team and it's only the first leg, so I suppose that's why the sportsbooks have installed them as the favourites to win this game in particular. But the injury problems they have are just absolutely brutal right now. Their key defensive linchpin, Gabriel, is going to be out for the season. So I really don't fancy their chances of keeping Kylian Mbappe quiet without him. And they don't have a striker either. Their 2 strikers are injured. So it's a banged up Arsenal team, and I agree that they don't deserve to be favourites here. I think Real Madrid draw no bet looks like a good option, or perhaps Real Madrid double chance if you're compiling any parlays.
All right, so agreement there on Arsenal, even though obviously Martin Green is a big Arsenal fan. Let's talk about Barcelona, minus 275 against Dortmund. Is that a fair price for them, Martin?
I think it probably is a fair price, just when you consider how well they've been playing. They've been sweeping their opponents aside in La Liga, and they've actually been surprisingly good in defence as well, which you don't normally associate with Barcelona. They only conceded 1 goal in the previous round over 2 legs against Benfica. Look pretty solid, so I think they're finding momentum at the perfect time of season. However, I wouldn't really fancy betting on them at minus 275. I don't think that looks like a particularly attractive set of odds on the money line. So I'll probably be looking at goal scorer props or both teams to score type of bet on that one.
Do you agree with him, Buckets? Is this maybe line a little bit too steep for them, even though they are a pretty scary team?
It's close. We talked earlier about how Dortmund has been really good in Champions League fixtures so far, but Barcelona are currently the best scoring team, not only in all of Spain, but in any of the top 5 leagues in Europe right now. They have 82 goals scored in 29 matches. So while I do think that line might be close to fair, I'd rather just bet the overs or bet both teams to score or bet anything involving goals rather than take a money line that steep.
Okay, so you kind of lead me into my next question here. Any team scoring goals, which game do you expect to be the highest scoring this week, Buckets?
If I am looking at a game that I want to ladder goals that I think will be the highest, it's going to be Barcelona, because Barcelona is a team that is capable of covering over 2.5 goals, 3.5 goals, or 4.5 goals by themselves. And I do think Dortmund score here, but it wouldn't shock me if we saw another crazy 4-2, 4-3 kind of fixture. It's just how you have to bet Barcelona right now in any competition.
Martin?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's the game I'm looking at as the highest scoring. But if you want another one, for the sake of variety, I would suggest that the Arsenal-Real Madrid game could actually be quite high scoring. I would have probably said it could be quite low scoring until Gabriel got injured. Now with Arsenal's banged up defence, they're going to really struggle to keep a clean sheet against Los Blancos. So I think they'll have to take some risks, pour men forward, try and attack, try and score goals. And yeah, I can see quite a lot of goals in that one.
Okay, sharp stuff from the two of you. We do have to take a quick break here, but keep it locked with us here on The Early Edge on CBS Sports Network, because Martin and Buckets are sticking around, and we are going to be betting on the Champions League next. They're looking at all of the matches and giving their best bet coming up here on The Early Edge. Welcome back to The Early Edge, here with SportsLine's best soccer handicappers, here with Martin Green and John Buckets Eimer. Let's bet on it, fellas, right? We talked about some of the storylines. We talked about who we like to be the most scoring. But when we look at this matchup between Bayern and Inter, Buckets, what's your best bet?
As a Bayern Munich fan, I have to try to keep my bias out of this, but Bayern Munich's one of those teams that, again, kind of struggles domestically, but then they absolutely devastated a Bayer Leverkusen side that historically had kind of been decimating them. So it's a tough game for me to bet on. I'm sticking with a very classic bet for me of both teams to score, currently priced at -120. Bayern Munich at home are capable of scoring against anyone. Full stop. It doesn't matter. And Inter Milan, in the form they're in, they're good enough to score as well. I think it's actually low scoring. A 1-1 draw wouldn't shock me, but I love both teams to score in this first one.
Every time I see a both teams to score, I think about those T-shirts where it's like, I just want everyone to have fun. But I like that at -120. Martin, what do you like in this one?
I like that. I would be very happy with a 1-1 draw, because I'm going for under 2.5 goals in this game. While both teams have a wealth of attacking talent within their ranks, they're also both pretty strong defensively. And I think the first leg between them could be quite a tight, cagey game. I was just looking at the stats before we went on, and Inter Milan have played 10 games so far in the Champions League this season. They've only conceded 2 goals. So they keep things very, very tight at the back. And I think they would be happy with either a narrow defeat or a draw in this game. Take it back to Milan for the second leg and try and beat Bayern there. So under 2.5 goals at -110 looks great to me.
Okay, so everybody scores, but only once. So we can hit both of those bets there. Let's talk about Arsenal and Real Madrid. You both said that Arsenal should not be favored here. They are so banged up. So what's your best bet, Martin?
I'll have to go for that classic both teams to score bet in this one. I was starting to feel reasonably encouraged until Arsenal's best defender, Gabriel, was injured on Tuesday. He pulled a hamstring and he's out for the season. And his deputy, his replacement, is normally Jakub Kiwior, who's pretty terrible by comparison. So I think they will really struggle to contain Mbappe and Vinicius and Rodrigo all at the same time. So Arsenal are really going to have to take some risks and try and score in this game. And Real Madrid are coming off a 4-4 draw in their last game, so they're not particularly strong defensively either. So should see an open, entertaining game, and both teams to score at -120 looks great to me.
All right, BTTS at -120. What do you think of Buckets?
I like it. Give me all the games in this matchup. I do think we see goals from both sides here, but what I do also see is Real Madrid draw no bet at +110. That is a crazy line, regardless of your opponent when you're playing in Champions League. If we're going to talk about All-Stars, I could sit here and just read the entire Real Madrid roster. They are that good, and if Arsenal not at full health and not at full fitness, I love the fact that I can get plus odds and a safety net for a push if this does end in a draw, and it might, because Arsenal at home is tricky regardless of who they play. But give me draw no bet all day on this one.
Okay, we talk about Barcelona and Dortmund. And Buckets, you did say that you anticipate this to be the highest scoring game this week. Line is at 3.5 total goals. Over or under?
Over 3.5, over 4.5, over 5.5. Let's just have some fun with this one. Let's just ladder this one, guys. Have some fun with this, because Barcelona, as we've talked about time and time again, the actual best attack in Europe right now. Ferran Torres is in ridiculous form. Lamine Yamal is one of the greatest young players we've seen ever. Robert Lewandowski, I miss him at Bayern Munich, but I'm glad to see him succeed at Barcelona. Barcelona could cover the over 3.5 by themselves, but Dortmund's going to score. So I think over 4.5 hits here as well, Katie.
Okay, so you see this very similarly, Martin.
Yeah, I'm going for quite a similar approach. I have both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at odds of -110. So that covers me if it's 2-1 and it stays under 3.5 goals. Just gives me a little bit more safety, because I do believe that Dortmund can score in this game. As Buckets mentioned at the top of the show, Dortmund just seem to raise their game when they play in the Champions League. They're really, really struggling in the Bundesliga this season, but they've been flying in the Champions League. They went all the way to the final last year, so they have great pedigree. And Barcelona's defence is a bit suspect, so I can see both teams getting on the score sheet, but I do think Barcelona will win it. Perhaps 2-1, perhaps 3-1, something like that.
I'll tell you what, I don't watch soccer regularly, but after talking with you guys for the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to bet both teams to score. I think in all of these, everybody's going to have fun, everyone's going to score, and we're going to make a lot of money here. We look at PSG versus Aston Villa. What do you think, Martin?
I think that is a pretty tough line, because -250 doesn't offer me a great deal of value on PSG, even though they're in absolutely sensational form right now, even though they'll be able to rest players in advance of this game because they already have the Ligue 1 title sewn up in France. But Aston Villa have been excellent in recent weeks too. They made some really good signings in January, and the likes of Marcus Rashford and Donyell Malen are giving them pace and power in attack. So I just want to avoid the money lines entirely. I'm going for a player prop in this game. I'm going for Ousmane Dembele just to score at any time. He's just been scoring goals for fun this season, 31 in 42 appearances. I think he's scored about 8 goals in his last 10 games. He's been playing as a false 9 for PSG very, very effectively. And I think he'll get the better of Aston Villa's defence. So give me +105 on Dembele to score. Looks great.
Like that value at +105. What do you think, Buckets?
I'm just going to say ditto. I'm going to copy Martin on this one, because there's no reason to bet on anything else than Ousmane Dembele right now for PSG. As Martin mentioned, 10 goals in his last 8 games, 31 goals across all competitions this season, and 6 goals in his last 5 matches. He has 2 braces in his last 4. He's just too good right now. This team's probably going to score 2 or 3 goals. Looking at the recent games, 4-2 win, 6-1 win, 3-1 win, 4-1 win. PSG's getting multiple goals, and if that happens, Ousmane Dembele's going to be a part of it.
Okay, we've got 1 minute left here, but I just have to ask you, who wins the Champions League, Martin?
Oh, good question.
You got 30 seconds or less.
I'm just going to have to, a bit boring, but I'm going to have to go with Real Madrid, which is a knife through my heart as an Arsenal fan, but I think they'll do it.
I'm going to be a little less boring and say Bayern Munich. It's totally biased. There's not a lot of numbers to back it up here. I think Real Madrid should win, but I got to back the boys here, Martin.